We're on the freeway right now, and you can see we're going 75 miles per hour. The cruise control set at 75, and this is what it sounds like in the cab. It's not too bad, much quieter than what the Winnebago was. You can see we're averaging about 10.2 miles per gallon on this trip. 7,213 miles on the odometer right now. This is a quick shot of what it's like in the cab of the Ram 5500. Welcome to another video. Today I'm going to give you a tour of our Ram 5500 cab chassis. A little bit different than the 2500 or 3500 chassis, so let's look at it from the very front. If you like to drive the 3500 or 2500 chassis, you will really like this 5500 chassis. It has the wide track, so it's a different front axle. It actually has a better turning radius than the 3500 chassis. So I'm going to talk about something that is a little bit different. Now, this chassis has been extended by MoRide. That's who Dynamax uses to extend the chassis, and that causes a major problem that I will talk about later on in the video. It might be a deal breaker for you once you find out this information, but let's go ahead and do a cab tour. After the cab tour, I will also show you some more clips of driving experience in this thing so you can get a good comparison if you're doing any type of shopping. So let's look at this door in itself. The door, nothing special, has some pockets. This is where I keep my diesel additives. Some of the pros and cons. Let me jump into the cons right away. There aren't that many, surprisingly. So let me jump with number one, the passenger seat. That's all manual. It does not have power seats like the Sprinter van does. It does have the full power seats on the driver's side, including the lumbar. Nothing special on the controls by the door, power windows, power locks, power mirrors. Does have the automatic headlights, but let's sit up at the cab. Now, sitting at the cab, you will see it has plenty of room. It actually feels a little wider than what the Sprinter van was, but either though it's wider and larger, another negative up in the front here is it seems like it has a blind spot, or the visibility is not very good, and I think that's created by a combination of this backup camera here and the technology display. It's a little bit bigger, so this whole front area, it does not have as good of a visibility as what the Sprinter van had. The power windows are both automatic down, but not automatic up. Not a big deal, but just wanted to point that out. Those are probably the only negatives there are. There's one other item out on the front. I don't think I need to really show you, but the headlights on this thing. Now, this is the SLT trim, and the headlights on these, how Dynamax orders them, is the halogen headlights, and they're absolutely terrible. They are pretty tough to drive at nighttime, and I would say the Mercedes Sprinter, you know, the VS30 chassis with those LED headlights, those are like one of the best headlights I've ever had on a vehicle. So you can get that option from Ram, but I don't know if it's just not part of the package or if Dynamax chose not to get that option. But if they could, I would highly encourage them to get that, because that would be nice to get. Like I mentioned, the passenger seat, it's only a manual seat, but they are pretty comfortable. The headroom on it is not really that great. This front headroom here seems a little bit lower than what the Mercedes had. Still usable, but I think that makes it more claustrophobic as well. It does have the full technology package here, which I'll talk about later on, but it has a upper storage like what the Mercedes had, as well as a traditional glove box, which the Mercedes did not have, and then has an extra little storage here, and this cheap little beverage holder here. It's pretty generic, but it does function. Some of the great things that I do like about it is it does have the integrated trailer brake controller. Now, most of these trucks with a towing package has those these days. It has this outfitter's auxiliary buttons here. Looks like they're only using it for the battery, basically combining the house and chassis batteries. And then this one right here, that is a pretty bright backup light. You know, tow haul mode, exhaust brake. It is full four-wheel drive, as in it has a four-wheel high plus a low range. So that's pretty nice. I haven't put that to the test yet. Up on the display, now this is not the highest trim level display. There is a bigger display option, but on the Dynamax they don't have that. I do like, I'll probably show you in the driving portion, but this is the lane assist. And the lane assist is basically just a quick button here. On the Mercedes, you have to go through the display screen, but they have a quick shortcut here. So when you get into those construction areas, really easy to turn that feature on and off. It has the heated seats on both sides, which is really nice. But one main feature that they do not advertise is right here. This is a heated steering wheel. And if you've ever had a vehicle with a heated steering wheel, you'll know how nice that is. So I really like to have that function. The air conditioning, the actual recirculate button, this one works really good. You hit the recirculate, and I think by code what happens is that they still have to introduce fresh air every once in a while. And what the Mercedes chassis does is it just shuts it off on you. And then you have to, if you forget, you have to go and manually turn it on. What this one does differently is it stays on, but every once in a while, it just automatically cycles the fresh air. It's something that you don't see. It just happens in the background. So I really like that function. It has a little place here for putting your cell phone there. Looks like a 12-volt auxiliary plug. It does have a bunch of USB chargers. Of course, it's a push button. And looking at my display here, you can see I have about 7,836 miles on this right now. I really like the dash display. Jumping onto the steering wheel, everything over on this side has to do with your adaptive cruise control, which is really nice. Again, coming from the Sprinter van, I can't believe how much nicer this adaptive cruise control works better than what the Sprinter van is. This is all the phone and radio functions. There's a bunch of other buttons. Typically on the back side of the paddle, you can have manual gears here. Now, going through the experience of driving and sitting in this, I will say this Ram truck is more comfortable than the Sprinter van. It's hard to believe you actually have to jump to a Ram truck to be more comfortable than a Sprinter van, but the seats are more comfortable. You know, the driving overall, the driving experience, the comfort, handling in the wind, everything about this is surprisingly much better than the Sprinter van. And I think that ties into many of the questions I usually get is, how does this thing really drive? Or what's your thoughts on this? And my thoughts are it's way superior to the Sprinter van. You get much more value for the money that you spend on this. But that's my opinion. So if you're thinking about this, these are the pros. You know, there's one major con that I will still discuss later on. Let me go ahead and start the engine so you know what it's really like when we start up the RV. The beeping you hear in the background is just the leveling jacks. Okay, we got the engine on, and let me point out here, it does also have this camera option. So this is, you can rotate from left to right camera, the reverse camera in up close view, reverse camera down low view, and you can have the left and right at the same time, you know, the reverse up and lower at the same time. Basically scrolling through, you can have all four cameras on at the same time, but that just gives you, it's really nice to have that camera. You know, the bad thing is it's really hard to, with the glare, sometimes it's really hard to see the display, but I do like having being able to see all the views at all times. If you look at with the engine on, you can hear, of course, the engine running, but you can see I've been averaging about 10.6 miles per gallon, which is, I think, for this vehicle, really good. I cruise on the highway between 76 and 78, and I think that's really great. Here's my total trip, looks like from last time, about 10.7 miles per gallon. Now with the engine on, you can actually see the display of the temperature to the oil pressure and so on. So I'll scroll through some of these menus just for fun. Alright, well that's really it for the interior tour. Like I mentioned, overall I really like this Ram chassis, surprisingly. And let me point out one of the major reasons that you may not want to get this Ram chassis. So the biggest issue they have with these Ram 5500 chassis, not the chassis itself, but this particular RV, is that Dynamax uses a third party called MoreRide, and they actually stretch the entire frame in the driveline. And what that causes is that the original chassis, of course, is much longer. So I live in an area that has quite an abundance of Ram dealers, but not a single one of them will take this in for service. Or I'll call it, I had to fight tooth and nail to get service on this. And not a single one of them actually has a service bay where they can drive this RV inside. So if you need major work, engine overhaul, transmission, or they need to get this on a lift, there's going to be very few dealers that will be able to handle something like this. You know, that's the one drawback of this Ram chassis. And I did plenty of research on this, and the Ford seems to be like the better chassis for that, because they do actually have commercial service centers where they can take on the larger vehicles. But I've done some Google searching on the Ram chassis itself, and there's a lot of outfitters, but they all stick with that original chassis length. None of them are really stretched. So stretching it is what's causing that problem, but may not be a deal breaker, or it may be a deal breaker for you. So if you are worried about getting your RV serviced, or you don't want it to be a hassle to get this serviced or professionally serviced under the Ram warranty, it's going to be a pain in the butt. I will jump into some clips on some more driving experience, and hopefully you enjoy. I know many of you asked me what it's like driving this thing on the highway. So I have a microphone set right here, so hopefully this records what it really sounds like in the cab. Going about 78 miles per hour. I don't know if the camera will pick that up. But I'm primarily a left-hand driver, which is not good because the armrest is on the right-hand side. It would be nice if I was a right-hand driver. But yeah, we have the cruise control set at 78, and we're going up an incline right now. passing lane here, but now you can see how much power we have. We have no problem going up these grades and passing these big fifth wheels. The thing that will slow us down are these sharp curves though. On a grade like this, it wasn't possible in the Winnebago. I do have some cars behind me. I need to move out of the way. Yes, these sharp curves are the problem. I didn't see a sign. Did you see a sign what percentage grade this was? I know it's at least the 8% plus. Looks like we're passing out these giant fifth wheels here. GM. Ford. What do we have here? There's a new Marv antenna. And more importantly, going back on the back side here, we have a pretty steep grade in the exhaust brake. We'll see how this exhaust brake works. Move on over. Let the cars pass us at least. There's one car that's too late for you, car. So it looks like we're going down in 8% grade here. So another great example of this. So this Cummins engine, we do have an exhaust brake with it, and you can just set your cruise control and I have the automatic exhaust brake. You can switch from full exhaust brake to automatic exhaust brake, but right now I have the automatic exhaust brake function going on. It's a really nice feature for going down steep mountain grades. You actually don't even have to use your service brake that much. You can just set your cruise control and it pretty much does its thing. The exhaust brake engages and disengages by itself. Right, we're jumping onto the freeway here.
In half a mile, merge onto I-15 South.
Alright, we merged onto the freeway here, and you can check the decibels out now. It's going to be a little higher. We're traveling about 80 miles per hour. The speed limit's actually 80. This This is usually a little faster than we normally drive on the other sections of the highway, but this one is 80 miles per hour. But this is what it's like driving on the freeway. You know, we're practically going almost 80 miles per hour. Plenty of power, and the stability is very stable on the roads. Whenever there's that rogue wind, it doesn't blow you over to the next lane like instant and gets you that your heart pumping and that white knuckle experience. It actually just gently nudges you so you have time to make your correction. But for the most part, it's very stable. So we're going about 83 right now. When you get above 80 miles per hour, the engine, the whole drivetrain, has a little bit of a humming. Kind of, you know, if you've ever had one of those MagnaFlow mufflers, has a little humming or drone sound at that. So if you keep it 80 miles per hour or less, that drone sound goes away. It's not horribly annoying, but you can hear the sound. Groovy hippie chick camper. Okay, I'll give you a glimpse of my right hand driving only. It's not my dominant hand for driving purposes, but just to show you how comfortable it is driving down the road. It's really nice to be able to cruise at 80 and not have that white knuckle experience on the driving. You can see from the decibel meter, you know, 80 miles per hour, obviously you're starting to almost hit the 80 decibels. So if you can keep it under 80, it jumps down to about 77, 78 decibels, which is much quieter. See, we've slowed down to about 76 miles per hour, and check that decibel reading wise. So at 80 it starts becoming a little bit louder, but 75, 76 miles per hour, all the way up to about 79 miles per hour, it will be pretty quiet in the cab. Passing semi-trucks wise, I never did like passing these semis very much with the Winnebago. It always felt a little unstable when you passed those, but no problem with this. Alright, we're taking off here at the truck stop. And I don't know if the camera can pick it up, but it's super windy outside. You can see the trees blowing pretty good. So this will be a good gauge of how well this RV handles in the wind. We're going about 77 miles per hour, and the wind is coming from the corner of the RV here. You can hear the wind noise pretty good coming through my door. Looks like I need to put another weather seal in here. But with that said, even with the wind, you can see, for the most part, the handling is pretty good. I can feel it in the drive, but there is no sudden like gusts that are pushing me over.